My name is Anesu Masunda. I'm presenting on the topic Psychological Perspectives. Question number 10 of the program SEG Access to Higher Education Diploma in Nursing. Perspectives in psychology. Different approaches or perspectives are used in psychology to try and understand how people think and act. These points of view give us different ways to think about how people think, feel, and act. Some of the most important schools of thought that we have are cognitive and behavioral. The cognitive perspective says that the mind is like a computer that processes information and focuses on things like perception, memory, and problem solving. The behavioral view, on the other hand, looks at the behavior that can be seen and how it is affected by the things in the environment. It focuses on learning through conditioning. This talk will look into these 2 points of view by explaining their main ideas, judging the work of famous theorists, listing their similarities and differences, and talking about how they relate to current psychological problems. Jean Piaget. Some of the most important things that Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget looked into were how people learn and grow. His theory says that there are 4 stages that all children go through in their cognitive development: sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. It was important to Piaget that children learn by interacting with the formal operational, with the world around them. This changes the way they think through assimilation and accommodation. From his point of view, cognitive development is mostly about how people feel about it. And as kids get older, their thinking gets more complicated. Piaget's research had a big impact on educational psychology because it helped people to see learning as a process of improving kids' reasoning skills over time. This leads to better abstract thinking and the ability to deal with hypothetical problems as teen. This is according to McLeod 2025. We move on to Albert Bandura. The social learning theory that Albert Bandura came up with, which combines thinking and acting, was a big step forward in cognitive psychology. Bandura said that people learn not only by doing things themselves, but also by watching what other people do and how it turns out. This is called observational learning. He discussed the self-efficacy modeling and imitation, as well as the impact of motivation, attention, and memory on the learning process. Bandura's research combined behaviorism and cognitive psychology by demonstrating the importance of mental states in understanding how people learn new behaviors. The well-known test he conducted with the Bobo doll demonstrated that when children are angry, they behave like adults. That is according to Bandura 1969. He stated that this demonstrated the importance of social contexting in learning. Key cognitive theory assumptions. Understanding behavior cognitively entails being aware of how your mind works on the inside. According to this theory, the mind functions similarly to a computer. It receives sensory information, processes it through memory, perception, and reasoning, and then applies what it has learned. Cognitive psychologists believe that people solve problems by changing their thinking and decision-making processes. This viewpoint holds that while mental processes cannot be directly observed, they can be scientifically studied by developing conclusions and theories that explain thought and behavior in a testable manner. That is according to McLeod 2025. The key behaviorist theorists, we have John B. Watson. People think of John B. Watson as a founder of behaviorism. He said that psychology should only study behavior that can be seen and not measurable mental states inside people. This would make psychology more objective from a scientific point of view. Watson posted that all behavior were acquired through environmental conditioning, particularly classical conditioning. His famous Little Albert experiment, in which he made a child afraid of a white rat, showed this. Watson opposed the psychoanalytic ideas by focusing on the link between stimuli and response. He turned psychology into a scientific field that studies how outside factors affect behavior, according to Watson, 1913. We move on to B.F. Skinner. It was B.F. Skinner who added to behaviorism the idea of operant conditioning, which looks at how actions have results that change people's decisions about what to do. People who are rewarded for behaviors are more likely to do them again, while people who are punished are less likely to do them again. The operant chamber, also known as the Skinner box, was used by him to study how animals learned complicated behavior by getting treats at certain times. Skinner's focus on reinforcement changed how techniques for changing behavior were used, which had an impact on both therapy and education. He didn't agree with mental explanations from the inside. He believed that actions and how they changed the environment were the only ways to fully understand behavior. It is according to Skinner, 1938. Key behaviorism theories assumptions. The behavioral view is based on the idea that everything we do is learned by interacting with our surroundings. It says that psychology should only study behavior that can be seen and not think about how people are feeling, because that's not scientific. Behaviorists believe that behavior is controlled by two types of conditioning. That is classical conditioning, which involves linking stimuli together, was created by Ivan Pavlov, and operant conditioning, which involves learning from results, which was created by B.F. Skinner. This way of thinking says that behavior is mostly caused by environmental cues and conditions of getting rewards. This makes it possible to study behavior's causes and changes in a scientific way, according to Skinner, 1938, Pavlov, 1927, and Cherry, 2023. We move on to an evaluation of the work of the key theorists relating to each of the identified psychological perspectives. We start with evaluation of the cognitive theories. Jean Piaget's transformed cognitive psychology by proposing that children go through 4 distinct stages. That is the sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational, each marked by qualitative changes in cognitive processes. His findings highlighted the importance of biological maturation and experimental learning in cognitive development by showing how children actively construct knowledge through their interactions with their surroundings. Although some argue that Piaget's theory is too rigid in its stages and ignores children's abilities, it has had a significant impact on developmental psychology and education. He became an important person in the cognitive perspective because he focused on epistemological development, which sets the stage of later cognitive research, according to McLeod, 2025. Evaluation of the cognitive theories. Albert Bandura extended cognitive theory by integrating social context with the cognitive process in his social learning theory. He emphasized observational learning, modeling, and self-efficacy, showing that people learn not only through direct experience, but by watching others. Bandura introduced crucial cognitive mediators like attention and motivation within learning, bridging behavior and cognitive. His work, especially the Bobo experiment, showed how mental states affect how we learn to behave. This greatly expanded cognitive psychology and has a practical application in theory, in therapy, and in education. This is according to Bandura, 1969. Evaluation of behaviorism theories. John B. Watson was the first to study behaviorism. He thought that the scientific method should only look at behavior and not let people think about themselves. He conducted experiments such as Little Albert to demonstrate the emotional responses are trainable, indicating that environmental factors can influence behavior. Watson's research pushed psychology towards more rigorous empirical methods. This made behaviorism the most popular way of thinking about psychology in the early 20th century. That's why B.F. Skinner came up with operant conditioning, a way to show how rewards and punishment can change behavior. He used the Skinner box to show that you can choose to change how often things happen. This changes how we teach and treat other people in a big way. Skinner 1938 and Cherry 2023 both say that behaviorism is a scientific theory that can be used to change people's behavior. Skinner emphasized that the study of behavior that can be seen and rejected, mentalistic explanations, and analysis of the similarities and difference between two perspectives in psychology. We move on to the similarities between cognitive and behaviorism perspective. Both the cognitive and behavioral perspectives believe that the best way to understand human behavior is through scientific methods and real-world research. They stress that experience is very important in shaping behavior and support using intervention strategies to change harmful behaviors or thoughts. Both points of view want to make people's lives better by creating therapies that change people's behavior. Also, they don't like approaches that are only guesswork or self-reflection. Instead, they like outcomes that can be seen or measured. Cognitive behavior therapy is one example of the treatment that uses both cognitive and behavioral approaches. It works to improve mental health by changing both dysfunctional ways of thinking and acting. This is according to American Psychological Association 2025. Differences between cognitive and behavioral perspectives. According to the cognitive perspective, our behavior is primarily determined by our mental processes, such as thinking, remembering, and problem solving. Its purpose is to examine people's experiences and the mental processes that enable them to act. In contrast, the behavioral perspective focuses solely on visible behaviors and environmental factors. It does not believe that mental states within the mind are important or real. According to behaviorism, We can understand behavior by applying conditioning concepts such as rewards and punishments. However, cognitive psychology studies how information is processed in order to understand why people behave the way they do. This difference influences how they start and practice therapy. Cognitive approaches try to change the way people think, while behavioral approaches try to change how people act. This is according to Beck 1967, Skinner 1938, and Cherry 2023. We move on to an evaluation of the application of the two perspectives to contemporary issues in psychology. We start with situation 1, treating anxiety disorders in care settings. In care settings, cognitive behavioral therapy is commonly applied to treat anxiety disorders. Cognitive theory guides therapists to help patients identify and challenge irrational negative thoughts that fuel anxiety. They teach coping skills and problem-solving strategies to manage stress and avoid catastrophic thinking. Behaviorism contributes through exposure therapy, a kind of operant conditioning where patients gradually face anxiety, provoking stimuli to reduce avoidance behavior. Reinforcement principles encourage persistence in therapy tasks. Together, these approaches modify both thought patterns and behavioral responses, improving patients' functionality and quality of life in clinical settings. This is according to American Psychological Association 2025. We have situation number 2, managing addiction rehabilitation. Cognitive techniques are used in addiction treatment to help people abuse their perceptions of drugs and their effects. This improves their ability to deal with triggers and cravings. When therapists use operant conditioning to help people stop doing bad things like drugs, they frequently offer rewards. Behaviorists, on the other hand, seek to influence how people act. Cognitive strategies, on the other hand, help people make better decisions and maintain their focus. This is according to Cariri et al. And Chand 2023. They both claim that situation number 3, supporting children with ADHD in educational settings. These are ways for children with ADHD to learn to focus and organize their thoughts in preschool and school. People go to therapy to learn how to deal with problems and take care of themselves. This helps them to perform better in school and with their friends. Behavioral classroom management is based on behaviorism and includes clear rules, immediate feedback, and token economies. There are reward systems in token economies that encourage people to do right thing rather than wrong thing. There are parent training programs that use behavioral principles to teach parents how to use consistent reinforcement at home. According to the National Institute of Health 2025, this method alters children's behavior and teaches them new cognitive skills that aid in their development and academic performances. Thank you.